welcome back to another video. I'm having some lighting issues, so I decided to move a little closer to the window and hopefully it looks a little bit better. Unfortunately, I really need to tidy up my office space and I have some boxes here, so you'll just have to ignore my messy background. I mean, you're probably used to it at this point. But anyway, I'm here today to share with you all of the books that I plan to read in March, and hopefully this month goes a little bit better than last month. I'm going to be uploading my February wrap up next week, but unfortunately last month my family got the flu and I am not one of those people that can do a lot of reading when they are ill. So even though I still think I read a good amount, I didn't read quite as much as I wanted to in February. Again, you'll hear more about that in my next video, but I thought I would share that up front because I do have a couple books that I'm carrying over from my February TBR into my March TBR. So I'm going to start with those because I don't want to spend too much time on them. I've already talked about them in multiple videos, so I'll just let you know right now I did not get to Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is part of my 25 and 25 book challenge, and I am really excited to read this one, but unfortunately I did not get to it in February like I had planned, so I'm hoping to get to it early this month. The next book that I'm carrying over is Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is one of my most anticipated releases for this year. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth duology, the first book being Heartless Hunter. I reread Heartless Hunter in February and I was hoping to get to this one too, but unfortunately I just ran out of time. So again, if you want to hear more about Vicious or this book, you can watch my February TBR video where I briefly explain what both of these books are about. Next, I'm going to include some footage of me picking a book to unwrap for my 25 and 25 book challenge. Unfortunately, I am behind on that challenge, so I decided just to pick one book for the month of March, and if by some chance I get super ahead on my reading in March, I will go ahead and pick another one, but because I'm behind, I decided just to pick one. I didn't finish my books in January, I didn't finish in February, and I just don't want to get further behind, so I decided just to pick one, and I'll go ahead and insert the footage of me opening the book and talking about it right now. Alright, I think I'm gonna go with something that's kind of medium-sized. I think I'm gonna go with this one. This lighting is a little rough, but I have my book for my challenge, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it up and we'll see what book I'm adding to my March TBR. I would have preferred this in the fall, I think. It is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Cañas? I took Spanish in high school. I should be able to pronounce these names, but I am terrible. Isabel Cañas. I think that's right. Anyway, this is described as Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca, and I actually haven't read either of those. I am slightly familiar with Rebecca though, and I understand just from the synopsis why it is considered to be similar. This is set in the aftermath of the Mexican War for Independence, and it is about a woman who is trying to start a new life for herself, and she accepts the proposal of a widower who has this grand estate, and everyone is kind of telling her, be careful, there are a lot of secrets surrounding this man and whatever happened to his wife who passed away, but she ignores that, and then things start to come out into the open, things start to unravel as she begins her new life with him and starts discovering things for herself. In the little blurb in the front it says, Beatriz only knows two things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda and no one there will save her. It sounds very atmospheric as well as a bit sinister. I'm expecting this to be a really captivating thriller, and I don't have anything like this on my TBR for March, so I think this one will be pretty fun. Of course, I'll let you know what I think after I'm done with it. I decided to film that the other day because I was going to be traveling, and if I needed to place holds on an audiobook or ebook from my library, I wanted to be able to go ahead and do that. So sorry if the lighting is different. Clearly my clothes are going to be different, but yes. The Hacienda is part of my March TBR. The next book that I'm hoping to get to in the month of March is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This is a library book, so I apologize for the shiny cover, but this is one that I put on hold and it came pretty quickly, and I'd really like to get to it before it's due back to the library. This sounds like one that would be really good for spring, and I'm starting to get in the mood for spring books, so this is one that I'm really excited to get to. I think I heard this described as Bridgerton, but with fae. It's also been described as The Cruel Prince Meets The Selection. I haven't read either of those books, though I do want to, but I can't tell you if that's accurate or not. It probably is based on just a little blurb in the front of this book, but basically this book is set in like a magical England where there are fae that rule, and basically every debut season the young ladies in high society are expected to make deals with fae in order to gain attractive qualities to help them gain suitors. But in this story, our main character is getting ready to enter society when it is announced that this season will be different, in that this season will include a competition in which the young women of high society will compete to marry the Queen Fae's son, Prince Bram. I'm really curious to meet the prince in the story to see if he's actually going to be a good love interest, but our main character really wants this opportunity to marry him in order to save her family from ruin and to help her sister out of a bad bargain that she made in the past. The blurb also mentions that our main character maybe makes a deal with the prince's brother in order to help her in this competition, so I'm kind of curious if there's actually going to be a romance with the brother instead of with Prince Bram himself. But anyway, I love Bridgerton. I love high society England. I've mentioned before that I love a competition in a novel, and to make it all magical as well just sounds absolutely perfect for me. Hopefully this lives up to all of my expectations because it just sounds like the perfect recipe for me. This is also the first book in a duology, which lately I've had good luck with, so we'll see if this is another duology that I can add to my favorites. Okay, the next two books I do not have physical copies of, so I'm just going to insert the cover art here, but the next book that I hope to read in March is the book that my book club chose for this month. We decided to pick a sci-fi, and I've heard some people say that this isn't really a true sci-fi, but it is considered part of the sci-fi genre. This book won a Goodreads Choice Award and has just gotten a lot of hype, and that is The Ministry of Time by Kelaine Bradley. I think that's how you say their name. This book is described as a time travel romance, a spy thriller, a workplace comedy, and an ingenious exploration of the nature of power and the potential for love to change it all. So this story is set in the near future, and it's about a woman who is offered the salary of her dreams, but they don't tell her what she's going to be doing. She decides to do it, and she finds out that she's going to be part of an experiment with time travel. Basically, there is a government ministry that is collecting expats from the past and bringing them to the future in order to see if time travel is really feasible, if the body can handle it, if space and time can handle it. And so our main character is working as a bridge, which is someone who basically gets to know these people from the past and helps them acclimate, I guess, to their new place in the future or the present day. So she ends up being the bridge for Commander Graham Gore, also known as 1847. So this man from 1847, I guess, is coming to live with her, and he doesn't know what to do with himself because he is not used to all of these modern things like women showing their calves and Spotify. So it sounds like it's going to be pretty funny, but also I think that they start to develop a romance. Things do not go as expected, and I'm curious to see if it ends up being sort of tragic or if the story has a happy ending. I don't know. I've mentioned that I've struggled with sci-fi in the past, but I think time travel is a subgenre within sci-fi that really interests me, so I think I'm gonna enjoy this one. Another book that I'm hoping to read in the month of March is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to The Hunger Games, which I finally read last year. I absolutely devoured the series, but I have not read this one yet. I also haven't watched the film, so I'm pretty much spoiler free at this point. Don't ruin it for me. But I really wanted to read this one before the new prequel Sunrise on the Reaping comes out next month. That is Haymitch's story from his time in the Hunger Games. But The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes actually follows President Snow when he was a young man at age 18. And I guess in the story he is acting as a mentor in the 10th annual Hunger Games. So this is relatively early in the history of the Hunger Games. I'm really curious to get more more of his background because I found him to be a really interesting character within the Hunger Games trilogy. Obviously, we kind of hate him, but I love a villain backstory because it helps us understand them more. It helps us broadly find a little bit of empathy for them, understanding why they got to the point that they got to. I've heard some mixed things about this, but personally, I'm really excited to give it a read. I'm not necessarily expecting it to give me the same feelings that the Hunger Games did because it's with different characters, and even though it's in the same world, I think there was something really special about the way that I attached myself to Katniss and Peeta, for example. But I do think that I will enjoy being back in the world again, and I still find the Hunger Games itself to be an interesting setting for these stories, so I'm really excited to get to this one, and I think it's really going to get me pumped for Sunrise on the Reaping next month. So those are 6 novels that I would like to get to this next month. I would also like to get to a few graphic novels. The first one that I want to mention is Lore Olympus Volume 6. I recently finished Volume 5 reading it on the Webtoon app, and this is a series that I have been enjoying for multiple years now. I believe that it's actually finished on Webtoon at this point, but the physical volumes are still coming out, I believe. I'm not sure which one they're on right now, but I just finished Volume 5. I'd like to get to Volume 6 and just continue on with the story. This is a retelling of Olympus, but more specifically Hades and Persephone's love story. I think it's really unique and it is very well loved by a lot of people. Specifically, what the author and illustrator does with color in the story is really fascinating, and I really enjoy Greek mythology retellings because every author tries to bring their own spin on these characters, and I think I especially am enjoying what the author is doing with Hades as a character. If you're familiar with the term baby girl, I feel like that's Hades. I will note that this series does cover some heavy topics concerning mental health. There's gaslighting and manipulation. There's also sexual abuse. It's not graphic, but that situation does come up a lot as one of our characters really struggles with how she is dealing with the aftermath of that. So if those are things that are triggering to you, I just want you to know that going into it. If you read it on the Webtoon app, every episode that deals with those issues usually has a content warning at the beginning. It is kind of an important part of the story, and I think honestly it's really well done. So I highly recommend this series from what I've read so far. I think it's really enjoyable. I like the romance, and yeah, it's just really fun to see how the author, Rachel Smith is her name, how she interprets the characters in her own story. Besides that, I would like to get to another graphic novel this month. I requested an ebook of one of the Babysitter's Club graphic novels. I've really been enjoying those, as my sister especially was very obsessed with that series when I was growing up, and even though I never read all of those books personally, I was still pretty familiar with the characters and at least with some of the story. So I've really been enjoying the new graphic novels that have been coming out. So I will probably read that one. I also have one that I got from the library called Chicken Pox, I think. It's a children's graphic novel that looked kind of cute. So I may also get to that one in the month of March. But you can expect that I will at least read 2 graphic novels in the month of March. So I believe that is 8 books. That's a little bit more manageable than my, I think, 11 last month. Hopefully this month will go a lot better. Praying that we don't get any more sickness in our house. And I'm just really excited to dive into some spring reading. Spring and fall are my favorite times of year to read, and I'm truly just so excited for so many of these stories. Let me know what you plan to read in the month of March. Let me know if there are any spring books that you're adding to your seasonal TBR. I'm hoping to make a spring video within the next few weeks, so keep an eye out for that. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're enjoying my content and you'd like to see more. And as always, I love you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.